prelude to Intimate Home Study Course 0 Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy. These lessons are for the purpose of revealing the nature of God and verifying His presence as the one universal being, through the gradual unfolding of the secret processes of creation which have until now been unknown to man. My ability to prove God as a scientific fact and bring Him within the range of man's comprehension through incontrovertible evidence of His controlling presence in all creating things is the result of having experienced fully that rarest of all mental phenomena known as the illumination into the light of cosmic consciousness. During the 39-day and night period in May and June of 1921, I will not describe that phenomenon here, for it will be fully described in the following pages, except to explain that the seat of sensation becomes completely severed from its centering conscious mind for intervals, followed by intervals of partial awareness of bodily sensing. During these intervals of complete severance one becomes holy mind, the one mind of God, in which is all knowledge, all power and all presence. During all history since the dawn of consciousness in man, there have been recorded about 30 cases of partial illumination, but probably only 3 in all history have been fully illumined. Universal law, natural science and philosophy. 2. Naturally the entirety of the secrets of creation were mine. 1. To know as a complete and consistent cosmogony which enabled me to vision the universe as a whole. Underlying all of it was a fundamental principle which is so simple that I felt that I could gather the great scientists of the world together and give them that entire principle in a few minutes. For I had been aware that science has been searching for such an underlying principle which would apply to all phenomena for decades. This I prepared to do by purchasing a textbook of science, Duncan's New Knowledge, to familiarize myself with the present state of scientific knowledge, for before my illumination I knew nothing whatsoever of science. To my amazement I found that the entire cosmogenetic theory of science was so unlike God and nature that, while reading it, I felt that these laws, hypotheses and other conclusions could not possibly have been written by men of our day, for they were so far afield from fact they seemed more like the conjurings of Arthurian sages who told of the flat earth upheld at its 4 corners by huge elephants as their cosmogenetic concept. As I read these unnatural theories and laws it gradually dawned upon me that these primal ideas were so fixed within the mental structure of science that it would be more than foolhardy to attempt to carry out my plan. The science I read was so utterly complex that it was beyond the average comprehension, whereas the science of God's plan in nature which I wished to give was so simple that anyone of average intelligence could master it without difficulty. Universal law, natural science, and philosophy. 3. I also realized that I was as unaware of the language in which to speak to science as of the Chinese tongue, and its terminology must be mastered before I could approach the subject. This seemed strange to me, for I felt that no special terminology was even needed to tell that simple story of the cause of all. Ef11. Court. Knowing that I would but lavite ridicule if I attempted to impart my knowledge prematurely, I began an intensive preparation to so effectually present God's simple principle, which is forever repeated in every phenomena of notion, that there could be no possible legs left for the old and inconsistent cosmogony to stand on. To do this, it became necessary to so build the new one that the old one need not be attacked to tear it down, but merely paint the picture of what is right over the old picture of what is wrong so effectually that the old one can never again be seen. Degrees. During this long period I've made some progress by gradually infiltrating some new ideas about the elements of matter during my 7 years of the presidency of the Society of Arts and Sciences, such as my work on hydrogen, which led to the discovery of its isotopes and heavy rate, and by charting the 2 atomic bomb elements which I then copied to it under the names of Uri, and Uvium. 20 years later they were isolated and renamed plutonium and neptunium, with giving due credit to me for having first given knowledge of their existence to the world by mailing my new periodic charts containing :_G these 2 elements to 1,000 foremost scientists. Degrees. This, and many other disc surveys were given by me to the universal law, natural science and philosophy for a world without credit, but that did not matter. Truth eventually forces recognition, and I could afford to be wise and wait until I had worthily prepared for the day when the light could so fully be focused upon the truth that its recognition could not be evaded. The fundamental cosmogony of science which so amazed me was what might be termed a transient, discontinuous, unbalanced one-way universe which had a beginning eons ago by the unexplained and unexplainable formation of a tremendous flaming mass of heat which is slowly radiating away by splitting into smaller masses which expand within themselves, and from each other, until they eventually end in heat death. Degrees. Out of this unnatural theory came the first and second laws of thermodynamics, which have no validity whatsoever, for the premise that heat is energy, upon which they are founded, has no validity. The resultant one-way universe allowed for no compensating generation to counterbalance its radiation, despite the accepted law of equal and opposite action and reaction. Energy cannot run uphill, science says, it can only run downhill. It so happens in God's plan that energy neither runs up nor downhill. God's universal body is a two-way compensating, continuous and eternal universe of absolute balance in every effect of motion. Generation equals radiation, compression equals expansion, the red half of the spectrum equals the blue half. Solid matter balances the potential of its surrounding space and every wave field, and each one of every opposite pair not only balances with its opposite but borns its opposite through sequential interchange. Universal law, natural science and philosophy v. God's universe is entirely composed of microcosmic and macrocosmic masses of pulsing electric waves which we call matter. These pulsing waves constitute the universal heartbeat, or universal breath of God's body. God's body continues its manifestation of the life principle by breathing outward and inward sequentially, just as you breathe out and in balanced sequences to continue your appearance of existence. Every mass in the universe breathes out and in, rhythmically. There are no exceptions to this law which every nebula, sun, planet or electron of an atom obeys, but in varying frequencies appropriate to their potential. Your breath frequency may be 10 joules per minute while the sun's frequency is 1 cycle in 11,1,71 to 1,1144. The most obvious fact of nature is its repetition of every effect of motion in two-way pulsing cycles. It is unaccountably strange that science has never observed this most obvious of all of nature's characteristics. Every cycle in nature is a two-way, equal interchange between pairs of opposite conditions. That interchange between the equally balanced anodes and cathodes of this electric wave universe constitute its pulsing heartbeat, which likewise is cyclic, otherwise it could not continue. This electric wave universe of divided pressures is an electric record of God's thinking. It is the creation of an ever-living and eternal Creator. If creation is condemned to death, then, by the same token, so is the Creator. God's universe of electric wave matter has no beginning or ending in time, for time itself is voided by itself. It has no existence except to the limited senses of man who sees but its universal law. Natural science and philosophy vie forward flow and not its compensating, voiding backward flow. Time is but a part of this great illusion of nature, this cosmic light mirage which forever simulates the idea of God's knowing, through two-way balanced self-voiding motion which but produces an unreal universe of seeming degrees if time has no other than a sensed existence. It can have no beginning or ending. The purpose of these lessons is twofold. First, and paramount, is to prepare the layman who desires personal power and progress through achievement and personal creative expression to attain that end by full understanding of the cause of all the effects he produces in order that he may command those effects to his obedience. With cosmic knowledge as a foundation upon which he can firmly stand to face every problem of his daily life, whether social, domestic, business, health, family, friendships, professional or otherwise, he can meet them with a clarity of vision and conquer them with intelligent action and decision instead of complexing his problems because of his inability to fully comprehend their cause. The secondary purpose is to so thoroughly define and explain this universal illusion which seems so real to the senses of man, and prove to the satisfaction of the most exacting scientist that the entire electric wave universe is but a cosmic cinema picturing a cosmic idea of cause and effect with cosmic projection cameras called wave fields of light degrees. These imaginary cosmic projection cameras of light wave fields are as describable and definable mechanically as the projection machines of their earthly counter-universal law. Natural science and philosophy 7 parts are describable and definable degrees. The cosmic cinema is a glorious manifestation of the imaginary thought processes of God's mind, but the projected light images of God's imagining which seem to move and have life of being in them are but electrically sensed thought forms of thought imaginings which but constitute a mirage of that reality which it but simulates degrees. This fact will be gradually clarified as these chapters unfold. Also God's reason for limiting the answers of man in order that he should believe this simulation to be reality. This solution of the seemingly unfathomable mystery of Creator and creation fulfills a prophecy made by Sir Oliver Lodge, who said, in effect, that if in the coming centuries the great cosmic secret was ever revealed to man, its discovery would not come from the trained scientific mind but would be the supreme vision of some poet, painter, philosopher or saint who could see the universe as a whole degrees. It is my hope that each reader will so clearly comprehend each part of this whole picture of God's cosmic plan that each one can so put them together in his comprehension that he too may vision the many parts as one whole. He who can so strongly see the oneness of all the seeming many parts of God's plan may make of his own life a divine extension of that one and thus become master creator of his own creating universe. Degrees Walter Russell, SC. D. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy by Walter Russell, SC. D. Lesson Number The Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Copyrighted 1950 by Walter Russell. Meditation. Scientifically explained, meditation is the most important of all the functions of human life which further human progress. Degrees. So little is known of it, even by the greatest of the world's geniuses who constantly practice it knowingly but could not explain it, that it now seems necessary to so carefully define and explain that divine function that everyone can knowingly practice it and thus knowingly command his achievements to be masterly, or command his body to be perfect, or his life to be full to overflowing. For through meditation every man can become whatever he wishes to become. Meditation is communing with God for the purpose of working knowingly with God. Degrees working knowingly with God. You all know that is the way I work, and because of it I have been enabled to do 10 times the amount of work I otherwise would have done, and all of it in a masterly manner. Degrees when I know that God's thinking and mine are one, and that I am so consciously aware of His presence at every working moment, likewise consciously feeling my hands to be His hands, my work could not be other. One universal law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 2. Than masterly. To constantly work knowingly with God, never ceasing, is to be constantly inspired with the ecstasy of His nature. I have felt that way since I was a child. I felt His presence with me at the piano. The musical rhythms which flowed from my soul were interpretations of His rhythmic thinking. As they became my thinking, God was my teacher. I needed no other. He was always with me in my soul and lifted me to great heights even in my early days. All during my life I have walked and talked and worked knowingly with God. Every year in May He took me up unto a high mountain for a few days alone with Him in His light to illumine my path for the years ahead which He had planned for me with me. Oh, for I had always dimly known the years ahead for me which were so amazingly clarified in 1921 when the message of the divine Iliad was interpreted for the dawning age of cosmic man. Degrees knowing that I must demonstrate by my own life that which I must teach to other men. My one desire through life has been to live life worthily, to manifest the power in me which God gives to every man for the asking, and to immunize myself from all that is unlovely in order that I could forever create with Him that beauty of balanced rhythmic thinking which is His universe. And so it is that the time has now come for me to teach you who desire to unfold your own omniscience how to find that zero of stillness in His light which will illumine your way to your own mountaintop. The first step to meditate with God. First forget your body and stop. Think. Universal law, Natural Sense and Philosophy, page 3. About anything, decentrate to the zero of stillness, become a vacuum insofar as your senses are concerned. Desire the light. If you could express it in words, let that expression have a meaning, but without words. Let it be more like a realization, as though you said in words, the glory of Thy anointing light is upon me, I am in the Spirit. Thy light is all about me, it encompasseth me, it shineth through me, I am dissolved in Thy light. Thy light is my light, I am immersed in my light, I am in Thy light, knowing Thy light. Be Thou me, that I may not be myself alone. Meditation. A defined meditation is the desire of man to know God in him, and to manifest his God awareness. 1:2a Extending his knowing, through his thinking, to the production of material bodies created lay him in the image of his inspired conceiving. I might put it more simply by saying that meditation is a desire to be alone with God, to talk with Him. Meditation is really a conference between your soul and the universal soul. To be one with God means to desire His knowledge and power. God's mind is your mind, hence you have all knowledge and power that God has to the extent of your awareness of God in you. If God's knowledge is asleep in you, it must be awakened in order that you may be aware of it. When you are aware of it, you can use it, for the entirety of universal law works with and for you at your command, to the extent of your awareness, and to that extent only. Universal law, Natural Science and Philosophy page 4. You may use universal power to think your knowing into material forms. Your knowing is your mind self. Your mind self is you, the eternal being. Your self is not your body, nor is your knowing in your brain, but it controls your body and your brain as its absolute master. Do not confuse your mind and brain as one. Your mind thinks through your brain, and with it, as a lever works its fulcrum, for your brain is but the instrument for fulfilling the commands extended to it by consciousness, which mind is. Your brain records memories, experiences and information electrically, just as phonographs likewise do. But it is the will of your mind which orders your brain to obey, just as it likewise orders your automobile to obey. The measure of your cosmic knowing is the measure of your self and God awareness. It is the measure of your ability to dwell in the light of all-knowing and to command the thought universe of creation with God as co-creator with God. Thinking what you know into Imago forms is expressing /211 eternal self in the invisible universe of mind. Giving formed bodies to imagined thought forms, by following, .14 to your thoughts with actions, is (?1212) your eternal self in the visible universe of matter. That is all that God does, for he controls his electric body as its absolute master. He keeps all of its interactions and interchangings in absolute balance, for God is eternally creating his body in the image of his desiring. You can do likewise, if you desire to, only by working knowingly with God. You can be master of your body in the measure of universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy page 5. Your awareness of God in you, and keep it in balance instead of continually unbalancing it in divers ways from morn until night and from night until morn, wearing it out with tensions and strains, fears and worryings, and various emotions which destroy your body with toxic poisonings. Degrees whatever you know you think, and what you think you become, creating bodies. This brings us to a point where much confusion exists regarding mind and matter. We must make this relationship so clear that the confusion will dissolve in your understanding. Degrees mind is spiritual and constitutes the invisible universe of cause. Matter is physical and constitutes the visible universe of Act 0. God's mind has but one idea. That idea is creation as a whole. God has but one desire. That desire is to give creative expression to his one whole idea. God expresses his desire electrically by thinking and imagining. Degrees God is the universal soul. God's thinking and imagining creates a body to manifest his soul. That body is the electric wave universe as a whole. It is God's one idea divided by his UN-17 thinking and imagining into countless million of ideas, each having a differently formed body but all manifesting the one by being extensions of each other. There is naught else in all of this vast universe but moving universal law. 9. Natural Science and Philosophy page 6. Bodies extending from the stillness of the cosmic light of soul which centers thinking mind of God and man. All formed bodies are made in the image of God and man, and extended from mind imaginings to manifest God and man. How simple it really is when you think of it that way. Creator and creation being just mind imagined forms electrically extended into electrically formed bodies fashioned in the images of their imagined 2s. How much more simple it is to think of all the universe as one mini, one soul and one body, seemingly divided into many minds, many souls and many bodies. You must really learn to think of God and God's body that way before you can fully understand the oneness of all things. When you do learn to think of it that way, you will then know that there are not two separate or separable things in the universe. Likewise you will fully understand that all things are extensions of each other, and of the One. How glorious and wonderful is the realization that mind of man and mind of God can know their oneness in meditation, in order that the creations of man can have the balanced rhythms, the symmetry and the stability of God's creations. All that God does is to think thought forms of ideas and give them photomed bodies from his body and soul of his soul. God thinks man, and the body of man appears in the image of God's imagining. In the same manner the bodies of roses and oaks of the forest, ants and lizards, elephants and camels, planets, suns and oceans with their living hosts of swimming things, and universal law, natural science and philosophy page 7, countless other formed bodies appear as separate ideas, all extended from the One, and all from each other. And that is all that man does. He also thinks thought forms of ideas and gives them formed bodies from the universal body and soul from the universal soul. The engineer conceives the image of a bridge, and the formed body of the bridge appears in the image of the engineer's imagining. Likewise the musician thinks music in the silence of his imagining, and lo, the formed body of the music appears in sound extending from the silence. And so are you and all men, thinking imaged forms of multiple things and giving them formed bodies in the image of their imaginings. Awaken your OWN genius. There is nothing the greatest genius in the world can do that you cannot do. You have the same inheritance that he has. The only reason why you have not given evidence of it is because you have not yet been aware of it. In other words, you have not yet discovered yourself. The greatest miracle that can happen to you is that wonderful discovery of yourself, the divine power which lies within yourself, and the unlimited knowledge which you unknowingly have, which you could never acquire from books or universities in 1,000 years. One of the reasons you have not yet made that marvelous discovery is because meditation is still new to the human race and is slowly being discovered by men, one by one, as each one begins to hear that inner voice of the Spirit which is forever calling universal law, natural science and philosophy page 8 within the souls of all men. When you are too busy with matter_ea.1 things to have time to listen to the voice, you become chained to emotions of your body and to the demands of material things. You are enslaved by them. The moment you begin to listen to your inner voice, that moment you become freed from slavery to body. The high heavens of God's omnipotent and omniscient universe then becomes your dwelling place. Meditation began when thinking began at the dawn of consciousness in the human race, that was but a few thousand years ago. Until that time men were ruled by their senses and their instincts. As soon as humans began to think and know, they began to suspect the superior being. Worship then began, sun worship, idol worship, and finally the inner voice of thinking man led him to the spiritual idea of many gods, then to one God. Through the centuries of meditation, or communion between the physical senses of men and their spiritual inspiration, the genius of some unfolded beyond others. This gradual unfolding has been taking place during several ages of man until now a new stage of the human race is unfolding, which is the dawn of the cosmic age. The great masses of mankind are not yet ready for cosmic knowing, but many thousands are ready for this new knowledge of the invisible universe of thinking mind. It may be that there are even a few millions who are ready to become the seed of the new race of cosmic man. The test for ascertaining the average number of those who are ready for this higher step upward in the unfolding of the man idea is not a religious one, it is a cultural one. In New York City, Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy page 9 for example, About 7,000 people out of 8 million people love the higher inspirational rhythmic creations of the world's great geniuses who interpret the heartbeats of nature for the souls of men. These same fuchsia noisy crowds shudder at jazz music which distresses them acutely, in order to seek aloneness in the forests or ocean shores where they can hear nature's silent whisperings and rhythmic sounds within their very souls. To the rest of the 8 million, the silent whisperings of nature have no meaning whatsoever other than boredom. If these be found at ocean shores, it will be where boardwalks and blatant noise vibrates the senses of their bodies pleasantly for the excitement of their senses. These still live sensed existences with body are awareness controlling their lives. The dawn of consciousness has not yet illumined them with the light which still awaits their souls' awakening. The dawn of the cosmic age. Those illumined ones who are now ready to open the doors of their souls far wider for the light to further illumine them will uplift the whole human race to higher standards, and out of that whole there shall forever come an average few continually until the cosmic age will be strong with growing numbers of the more and more illumined. Knowing, conceiving, thinking idea. Creation is an idea of God. It is one whole idea. That one whole idea constitutes what God knows. God thinks the one idea into countless parts of countless forms. Thus God's thinking takes God's knowing apart into seemingly separate ideas, each of universal law, natural science and philosophy. Page 10, which is given its separate form. That is exactly what you do. You may have all of God oneness knowing if you become fully illumined with it, but in each communion with God you get a little more of it each time your soul touches the universal soul. You then take it apart and think it into objective form. You always feel that which you ask for if you ask for it with your soul instead of your senses. If you ask for it in words alone, which are just words, you will not receive what you ask for, because you have not asked God for it, you have but asked your senses for it. When, however, you have actually written your desire into your heartbeat, as I have automatically done all my life from moment to moment, you unfailingly acquire the knowledge you ask for. It comes to you in a timeless flash in the language of light which God uses to talk to you and me when we wish to talk with Him. Having thus acquired that part of the one whole idea which you have asked for in your heart, you then think it into the form of a concept by imagining it into a form. This conceptual form may be misty, or nebulous at first. Do not act upon it while it is still nebulous. Decentrate to the zero of the light again, over and over again, then concentrate. Each time you concentrate you more clearly see the image of it in your inspired imaginings. So long as it is still an embryo, do not give it birth into the objective universe of form and motion. Dwell on it until it becomes as clear to your inner vision as the body you give. It becomes clear to your outer vision. If it universal law, natural science and philosophy. Page 11 is an invention. Meditate upon it until you clearly see it. Do not waste time experimenting. See it completed mentally before you spend time on it physically, otherwise it will be immature. If it is a sale of something, assemble all of the elements of it together until you can vision it clearly before approaching your client. If it is a motif for a symphony, hear it completely in the silence of your soul before you give it a body. No matter what your desire is, take it to God for a spiritual form before you give it a physical one. Get into the fixed habit of seeking that zero of stillness light before starting to think or act. When you finally act to give your concept a physical form, keep your soul attuned to the universal soul. Hold fast to that ecstasy of inner joyousness which comes from working knowingly with God. Your creation will be finished in much less time and you will know no fatigue. talk to God constantly in His wordless rhythmic language of light. The moment you find yourself working alone with your own ego, stop working, for the emotions of your sensed body are making you aware of it, and your work will not be enduring without the light of your soul. Physical emotions immediately smother spiritual inspirations. Degrees. Taking idea apart, you can know an idea timelessly, all of it. But to think it into objective form is to take it apart for extension into the three-dimensional universe of time and space. To thus think it, you divide and multiply it into many conditioned material forms and set them in motion to become a part of this physical universe. Universal law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 12 of Multi-Conditioned Moving Forms. Degrees. This creative process requires a technique, but knowledge and inspiration requires no technique. Degrees. Always remember that God is creating His universe by giving body forms to mind imagined forms. Degrees. Likewise, you are creating your universe by giving objective body forms to your imagined forms. Degrees. You must, however, conceive the idea for those forms before you begin to build them into your imagined.n0. Then you must imagine them fully before borning them objectively. When your imagined idea is sufficiently clear, then start creating it, whether you know a technique or not. Learn the technique of it and the doing of it. Always remember that a technique is something that your body acquires, and that anybody can acquire any technique. But KNP 141 ERIC 4R and ZFR and semicolons inspiration you do not acquires for you already, f that all you need do is to awaken the degrees. And 479 istes of Kedivtki -e des t.r.loom equals pkersat bay.e (b0, idoud 0 e noos po 1 jip.144407 p 0 tovivelstitkafa ividkilankatayat.wo th4 legit Mtvikla 241 equals at 0. A inspiration will then come to you, and in that inspiration your desire is being fulfilled with the knowing which that inspiration is. The language of light is wordless, but in it is the essence of meaning. Degrees. You, yourself, can put it into words, for that is but a technique. Degrees. Likewise, whatever form you wish to give it, you yourself can translate the essence of that divine language of light into form through any medium by acquiring technique. Degrees. That is something which your body does by acting solely with your will. Degrees. Command. Universal law, Science and Philosophy, page 13 4,47 4104 For your body is but an automatic machine which must be E,0 fill every technique of expression, and it may take years to so train your body to automatically obey your will. That is why it takes years of practice for a body to become a perfect musical instrument, or an instrument which paints, writes or sculpts, with tools which are but extensions of a body. Conception of idea is recorded as seed of idea. Your conception of an idea has the same relation to that idea as the seed of an oak has to the full-grown oak. Your imagining is recorded in your very soul, and from the stillness of your soul the idea extends into form as the form of the oak extends from the stillness of its formless seed. The inner joyousness of conceiving an idea and imagining its form and purpose is as uplifting as the created extensions of it is, and it is purposeful even if it but uplifts yourself. To be purposeful for the world you must give your inspired imaginings a formed body which responds to the senses of man. It is through this action-reaction of giving it a material body that you make it a masterpiece by extending your soul into it by moment-to-moment communion with God to give love to your creation. 1.1.106, Inasuo, not having life or love given to it, it cannot give life of love to inspire others. It is already dead and soon will be buried in the trash basket of dead things. A masterpiece of any product whatsoever is that to which the universal law, Science and Philosophy, page L4, life and love of the orator's soul has been extended to be F6 tie 8d6 NBI. The glory of the unseen and unheard. There is an indescribable glory all along the road which leads from your active thinking to the stillness of deep meditation. If you cannot actually G_O for the forest or sea, the better to commune with God, _O there in your imagination. If some problem demands your thoughts, let the imagined tones of the sea drown them out. If you imagine the sea and hear the rhythms of its waves pounding upon the shores as echoes of the heartbeats of the universe resounding within you, or if you hear the breezes whispering in the pines with your inner ears, the glory of that ecstasy will soon drown out dross thoughts of earth. Meditation transports you from the world of sensing the motion of things materially to imagining them cosmically. It transports you from the world of blatant sounds which sear the senses to the world of rhythmic silences which is without body, the world of the soul and the seed of things unborn which await their birth through you. It is your escape from emotions, with its tensions and nervous strains, to the ecstasy of your soul's high heavens. Earth music is melodic and chains you to earth. Th. Sanatamayan 16. The rhythms and tones of nature's music which sing its octaves in the language of light have always within them the pulsing rhythms of the universal heartbeat, always the 1-2-1-2 pulsing of the father-mother heartbeat of born and reborn registered universal law. Science and Philosophy, page 15. In forms of things which manifest the father-mother pulsing rhythms of the soul's high heavens, always in your deep meditation. The music of the silences from which sounds of earth spring is like unto the aftermath of the great symphonies by cosmic masters which have refolded from sounds of earth which your ears have heard, into your very soul which still hears them in the pulse beat of your imagining. Never will you hear the 1-2-3 of waltz rhythm in the soul's high heavens, for that syncopation brings you quickly back to earth and to awareness of your body, emotions and its senses. That 1-2-3 rhythm mages you want to dance. To those whose desires are so deeply rooted to the senses of earth that their deep appeal is from the complex syncopation of jazz, the silences of the high heavens are but a deep void, and as though they were not. Even of such a one it may not be said that he is without soul _it may be said of him only that the light of his soul is dimmed or sleeping, and he himself can awaken it if he but listens long enough, and often enough to hear rhythms of the soul's high heavens to awaken recognition of the light which is within all men. The story is told that Lyman Jim Brady thus awakened his sleeping inner self quite Act 4 dentally. He bought an automatic piano and many jazz and foxtrot records for his worldly friends and ordered many classic Rock 2ds for his highbrow friends, of whom he had many. While plotting these classic records he recognized within him the glory cf the universal heartbeat rhythms. It is said that he listened to those records alone for hours until universal law, Science and Philosophy, page 16, he became completely transformed culturally. I am in no way suggesting to you that you should not listen to the music which excites body emotions, for they are good when properly divided between the rhythms of earth and the rhythms of heaven. We need to live gloriously on earth as well as in the high heavens, but to live the rhythms of earth alone is to be but clay of earth, chained to earth as slave of earth, never soaring into the high heavens of the light of your immortality. Mortality, is a prison cell from which you can escape only upon the wings of your immortality. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy by Walter Russell, S.C. D. Lesson New. Number 2. The Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Copyrighted 1950 by Walter Russell. Continuation of meditation scientifically explained. Further 7,0 Insidering technique. There is much confusion regarding the relation of an inspired idea to the technique of its expression. Thousands of times I have heard people say, "I could never be an artist, for I could not even draw a straight line." Oh, for this reason I would like to expand what I said in our first lesson regarding this relationship. I have told you that anybody can acquire a technique to give a material body to any idea, but so can an automatic machine or a tape recorder. Degrees. A technique can be photographed or electrically repeated, and such a recording of a rendition by a master may even be immeasurably better than the technique of a human, for the automatic recorder may record much of the soul of the master's technique, while the human may have acquired a perfect technique with his senses but be lack LNG and soul. Just as an inspired conception is the result of a conference between your soul and the universal soul to produce a thought body, so must your rendition into a material body continue that soul to 17. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy. Page 18. Soul Conference. Every technical rendition of a painting, a symphony or product of a factory which has been conceived by the soul of a master must also be rendered by the soul of the master. Every brush stroke of tone of symphony must conform to the nature of God reflected in the nature of the master. Love is the basis of the spirit, and the law of love is the basis of creation. The nature of God is to give out his love for re-giving. The nature of the master must be to give out love to inspire others to retrieve love. It has often been my good fortune to hear such masters as Paderewski or Gabrilowitsch practice scales and finger exercises. The unthinking listener might marvel at such skill, while one who listens with inner ears hears the silence of the soul even in Ani's practicing. The soul alone can give out love. The body can render a perfect technical reproduction, but if the love nature of God is not in it, it is not art, for the art of anything is not in the skill of rendering a visible or audible thing, but in the beauty and love which only the stillness of the light of your soul can give to it. And therein lies the difference between the genial of the master and soulless mediocrity. That is why your constant communion with God is necessary for every moment of life and every stage of your creation. God must sit with you on your piano stool or workbench, your hands must be his hands, your thinking must be his thinking, love must be interwoven in every stitch of whatever pattern you are weaving, every word you are writing, and every interchange between your universal law, Natural Science and Philosophy. Page 19. Self and your fellow men. Degrees. And as love is rhythmically repeated in its givings and regivings to synchronize with the givings of your outward breath to the heavens and their regivings to you, and as such balanced rhythmic interchange between your heartbeat pulsings and all other electric extensions from the stillness of your soul is law, the basic fundamental law of all creating things in all this electric universe. Your own masterpiece is the measure of how divinely you have conceived it and how worthily you have rendered it in balance with universal law. Degrees. To the extent that you can extend the beauty of your imagined rhythms to material bodies built in the images of your spiritual conceptions, those rhythms which you create are masterpieces of great art. Degrees. The very measure of the quality of your material interpretation lies in your ability to translate imagined forms and rhythms of the universal heartbeat into bodily forms and rhythms which can re-inspire others with the ecstasy of your inspiration. When you inspire others, you are manifesting the nature of God and the fulfillment of His law by giving love. Those whom you re-inspire are, likewise, manifesting the nature of God and fulfilling His law by giving love. Degrees. You cannot re-inspire others, however, if you leave God out of your technical rendition. Degrees. That is why meditation is necessarily Z19.LT 111.1104. So that is why Greer masters never go into their concert hall or to their easels or workbenches without an interval of time to forget materiality, to seek the zero of the still light universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 20, which centers their consciousness before extending their thought images out from that stillness into the three-dimensional universe of moving electric waves which creation is. Not only every day should be started by seeking that zero of stillness, but every moment from the beginning of anything to its fulfillment. How often have I literally opened the door of my studio, after some disturbing telephone call or other distraction, to let my sensed self out and let God in. You cannot do anything of yourself alone. Whether you know it or not, you have to acquire God power to even lift your finger. You are automatically controlled in every action. Why not be controlled by working with God knowingly at all times, and being fully aware that God, and His law, are working with you? Continuous meditation means continuous God awareness, and that continuity of awareness is forever leading you higher and higher into the high heavens of your own mountain top. That, and that alone, is the great glory of life, and of living. That awareness, and that alone, leads you to masterliness of achievement, peace, prosperity, happiness, and the love of all mankind, which is forever enduring. The very essence of meditation, the basic reason for meditation, is that you want to ask something from God. There is no other reason for it. And you do not begin to ask God for anything until you begin to realize your oneness with God. You then ask God because you realize that you cannot fulfill your soul's desire without Him. When you finally do ask Him, you naturally ask how you may. Universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 2. Fulfill your soul's desire. Degrees. 0. God, show me the way. Degrees. Illumine my path with thy light. You say, wordlessly, in your heart. Degrees. This your soul asks in the silences of the universal soul. Degrees. Naturally your inner ears cannot hear the answer except in the silences of the light of inspiration. Degrees. Naturally, also, you cannot comprehend the wordless answer from the silences of rest in His light unless your soul is so attuned to the universal soul that your inner ears can hear that answer in the universal language of light. That is the language in which God talks to inspired man who knows God in him, and is thus illumined. Degrees. Naturally you seek aloneness with God in the quiet of your chamber, or workshop, or in the forests of nature, where the nature of God is being made manifest in the forms and whisperings of rhythms which echo within your own heartbeat as one. That very desire puts you in the mood for meditation. And the more you thus become companion with God, the more readily you comprehend His language of light and can put words and forms to. When you have formed the habit of constant communion with GC, you will not then have to make any conscious effort, or seek the quiet of nature's environment, to induce it. Degrees. It will become a working habit, a fixed habit of working knowingly with God under any circumstances. Degrees. I can as immediately decentrate to the zero of the light of all-knowing in a subway, if I so desire, as in a forest. Degrees. Let us analyze what is meant by soul's desire. What is the greatest thing in the world which you can ask for or become? There is only one answer, and that is to be like unto God and man. Universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 22. Manifest His nature, in its simplest form. Just what, exactly, does that mean? In its simplest form, how can we be like God and manifest His nature? The simplest answer to that is to say that God is love, life and the truth which lies in the light of all knowledge and power. That what God is, that is the nature of God, the universal mind, or soul. Now as to what God does, the answer can be just as simple. God extends His knowledge and power from the light of His mind, through the pulsations of His thinking, to waves of moving, divided light to create one pulsing body to manifest, the love, life and truth of, His knowing, which constitutes His nature, and that is exactly what you do to the extent of your knowledge and ability. You extend your knowledge and your power to $111 light of your mind, through the pulsations of your thinking, to create your universe in forms which reflect your nature degrees. Whatever you create is the image of you. You call it your individuality, or personality. Whatever it is your image projected into forms imagined by you to manifest your nature. You create a manifestation of your own self by thinking your knowing into form. If you know but little, and think but little, you will create yourself into a little person. If you think out of balance, you will create an unbalanced individual with an unbalanced body. If you are a hypochondriac, you have made yourself into one instead of a genial, cheerful, happy and healthy leader of men. Whatever you wish to become, you may become degrees if you create universal law, natural science and philosophy. Page 23. Your own personality alone, BZ. Yourself, it will have all of the weaknesses of the senses. The more you ask God to help you make yourself into His image, the more power of His mind you will have to fashion yourself into a powerful individual. When His nature and yours are one, you will then be a man of cosmic power, and your creations will manifest your nature and God's nature as one. Our very name for God's creation is nature, for that is what nature is. I shall define nature for you in simple words. Nature is an electric wave, thought image of God's nature, electrically projected from His formless and unconditioned one light into countless many forms of conditioned light which we call matter. How your meditation affects others. Your genius does not depend upon your ability to translate your soul-imagined patterns into material ones. For your genius unfolds for your own uplift even if you never express it through a technique which gives it a body, to awaken it, and your soul uplifts you to your own high heavens but does not uplift your neighbor to his until you have expressed it as a three-to-soul message by giving it a formed body. When the genius of your soul sends out a visual or audible message which awakens the genius in another soul and re-inspires him with your inspiration, you have then extended your immortality to another, and that other one recognizes his own genius to the measure of your awakening of the knowledge of his immortality in him. That is what is meant by the following quotation from Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 24. Salutation to the Day and the Massage of the Divine Iliad. I am the light of universal thinking. I translate the language of light into the words of man for those who know not their universality. Immortality is mine. I will earn immortality. I will bestow immortality. Mine is the power to give immortality. I shall not deny that which will give immortality to those who dwell in the darkness and who reach out for the light. I will reach out my hand and lead him who asketh into the light. It is not necessary to another whom you may inspire that he should have the technical mastery of any instrument or medium you employ to lift him up into your ecstatic heaven. For the moment you inspire him with your genius, he has it in himself to the extent of the intensity of his inspiration. He cannot bring his heavenly inspirations to earth as you can unless he acquires the technique that you have acquired to be enabled to bring them to earth. It has, however, uplifted his cultural standard and, in so doing, has uplifted the cultural standard of all mankind, even as one drop of water uplifts the whole ocean by that measure. Your transcendent genius is the result of your communion with God, by your masterly interpretation of the rhythmic heartbeats of His thinking. You have caused others to commune with you and God. Your meditation and theirs are one. You have made them to forget their sensed bodies and dwell in the mind kingdom of your high heavens with you and all illumined souls who dwell in God's kingdom. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 25 of Light. That is the way that culture gradually awakens in unfolding man. Those who have come to know that kingdom through meditation tell it to others in the inspired language of light, and that language has no words, no sounds, no form and no technique. The language of light is from light to light, or soul to soul, and there need be no words, nor sounds, nor form. The soul understands that universal language whenever expressed by soul. The body senses, centered at the seat of sensation centered in the brain, can never understand it, even though it hears its expression in words and sounds, and sees it expressed in form. Meditation again. 1. Find the seat of consciousness which is the light in man, centers the seat of sensation from which the electric action-reaction sequences of thinking extend. In meditation you are partially or wholly severing the extending sensations of your thinking in order to find the stillness of the light which your consciousness is. You thus lose your manifestation of life which your body is, to find the eternal life which the soul of you is. Let find meditation. In other words, meditation is a communion with God for the purpose of acquiring knowledge and power to manifest God as co-creator of His universe. In other words, it is to enable the mind to control matter. To the extent that you acquire knowledge, you acquire the power to control matter. That acquisition gives you the power to create your own individual universe in your own image of your individual universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 26. Self as God likewise creates his universe in his own image. Through meditation you alone free your body from slavery and acquire mastery over it. The human race has been a slave to its body all down the ages. You and every other man are slaves to your bodily senses until knowledge gives your mind mastery over them. As different words about the same thing have connotations which lead to better understandings, let us again define meditation with different words. Meditation is an intercommunication between your immortal mind and the electric senses of your immortal body. Meditation is a conference between your immortal mind self who knows, your thinking which builds images of your knowing, and your body which acts in obedience to the will of your mind. Meditation is an expression of desire for knowledge of perfect cause for the purpose of producing perfect effect. In communion with God you acquire God awareness, which means, cosmic consciousness, by forgetting body awareness, which means material sensing. God awareness in you brings realization of the light of cosmic 3 consciousness in you. When your realization of your cosmic unity with God is strong enough, your cosmic power is the measure of your intensity of that realization. The only way you can multiply your strength to think, or to create, or to command matter to your obedience, such as commanding your body to health, or commanding masterly achievement by control over your body, is to multiply God awareness in you. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 27. Your mind is God's mind, your thinking is God's thinker. 12. Your creative processes are God's creative processes. When God concentrates his thinking, body forms appear in the image of his desiring. When God decentrates his thinking, Those body forms expand into disappearance to reappear when God reconcentrates his thinking. You do likewise, for there is but one knower, one thinker and one creator in the universe. God is all that is. You are all that is. In meditative communion with God X21 become aware of that. To be alone with C3I is to know the ecstasy of that awareness. God creates his universal body by extending the electric pulsations of his thinking from the stillness of the light of his knowing. Idea of God's knowing is electrically projected. He dug the motion of his thinking to mirrored. Image 14 of forms. Of which we call matter. All matter is but electric wave pulsations of his thinking, recording the idea of his thinking in forms which appear, disappear and reappear to synchronize with the cyclic sequences of his concentrative, decentrative and reconcentrative thinking, which characterize the entirety of effect in this electric universe of his creating. God's eternally creating universe is the result of his E=P continuous meditation. You create your universe in the same manner and by the same processes and method under control of the same law. There is no other manner, nor process, nor method, nor law. Your universe plus minus of what you are is your mind idea. Your soul's desire manifested into universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 28. The material image of your thinking. It is the result of your meditations. The most wonderful thing about it is that God will give you whatever you ask. Fulfill your desire, no matter what you desire. You can make yourself into the kind of a person you desire to be, whether bishop, poet or thief. For the whole universe will work with you to fulfill your desire if you work with its law. If you work against that law it will avail you nothing. Even if you fulfill your desire, balance your desires, therefore, and their fulfillment will, likewise, be balanced. Degrees communion with God and meditation will not only mold your desires in harmony with divine law but will give you knowledge of the nature of God, which will become your nature. To the extent that you reflect God's nature, your desires will also reflect God's nature. Degrees Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy by Walter Russell, SC. D. Lesson number 3. The Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Copyrighted 1950 by Walter Russell. Continuation of meditation. Scientifically explained. God is light. God's communion within his own being is a sequential transition from the still, unconditioned light of his knowing and the moving, conditioned lights of his thinking. The light of his knowing is undivided. It is a magnetic equilibrium. The two lights of his thinking are divided. They are the electric pulsations of two-way motion which build thought forms for recording God's knowing. God's magnetic universe is the still light of his knowing. God's electric universe is the product of God's knowing, expressed by the pulsing lights of his dynamic thinking. Man is light. I cannot say more to you than that. For God's communion with his self is identical in principle and practice with your communion with yourself, oneness as God. Your electric universe is the product of your knowing, expressed by your thinking. 29. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 30. If you can but fully realize this vitally important fact, you will be farther ahead than you could possibly be by reading all of the books in the Congressional Library. By communion with full understanding of its meaning, you become aware of your oneness with God. You become more and more aware of the fact that God's mind is your mind, that his knowledge and power are your knowledge and power. To the extent that you become aware of God as the still light which centers you as soul of you, you are God. As you become more and more enabled to forget your body awareness, and find yourself alone in that stillness of the light. You form inspired conceptions of ideas which come to you in timeless flashes of that light which you do not see, but know because of its illumining presence. You feel the ecstasy of it in the light of your soul, and in the inspiration which accompanies your exaltation. All geniuses conceive their ideas with that accompanying ecstasy and exaltation. They then think those ideas into form. After the mental image is clear, they give a material body to each idea for others to interpret in the measure of their knowing. To sum this up, we might say that meditation is a sequential journey from the zero of mind knowing through the action of mind thinking to the rest point which centers two-way thinking, and back again to that zero of mind knowing. The more intensely you can comprehend this definition, the more simply you will find all things in life, for we do not depart from the above formula in any decision or action of life or the solution of any problem of life, nor do we depart from it during universal law, natural science and philosophy. Page 31. This entire course of lessons _ it is very basic, as you will find out as we proceed. I urge you, therefore, to give deep thought to it, and recognize its Prototype principle in everything as we proceed. Desire in God to manifest His being by producing imaged forms, by projecting in light waves of motion from the stillness of His light of knowing, is the energy of the universe which He is eternally creating. Desire in you is, likewise, the energy which enables you to create your Uni-7s. We will talk much, later on, about your energy and God's energy in relation to the motive power extended to you from God, and your use of it. Constant communion with your source of energy will give you both knowledge, and power to use it by giving form to your inspired conceptions under your cosmic control instead of under your sensed control. The love nature of God. Yesterday I endeavored to take one step nearer to giving you the simplicity which underlies your interchange between knowing and thinking. Today I wish to take another step in that direction by having you understand the 1C7E nature of the universe and how that love principle parallels F2E. Simple formula I gave you yesterday. Communion with God exalts you to the ecstasy of the universal love principle of God and of nature. Ecstasy is the one undivided emotion, the balanced ecstasy of love for which there are no opposites. The reaction to the giving of love is love given. Universal law, natural science and philosophy. Page 32. When your meditation gives to you the love nature of God, you will then know that there is no evil, nor sin, nor bad in God or in nature. There is naught but good in God's universe. In communing with God directly, or through those moods of nature which lead you to God, you become aware that His nature is your nature. In your deep communion you feel only the universal love nature of God extending through you to all the universe. You then love all things, for there is naught but love extending through you and from you. Your own ecstasy tells you that. Imagine yourself communing with God indirectly, such as listening to the heavenly rhythms of God's heartbeat in a masterful symphony. While thus enraptured by the divine rhythms reaching your very soul, can you possibly imagine yourself thinking evil, or thinking sinfully by planning to cheat, or lie, or steal? No, of course you cannot. The reason you cannot is because you are reflecting the love nature of the universe in your spiritual self in its entirety, and there is no sin in that love nature to reflect. That is why you should seek God in meditation immediately if you indulge in an angry, or even unkind thought, to find balance in the universal love principle, else the toxins of unbalanced conditions brought on by yourself will upset your balanced body rhythms, which all illnesses are. Form the constant habit of meditation, Make it a moment-to-moment, continuous attitude of your mind, in order to keep in tune with the universal rhythms of God's balanced thinking. Be in tune with them always, never stray far enough from God awareness to allow the slightest imperfection in your work, your health. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 33. Your friendships, your business plans, or any achievement whatsoever degrees, the more you become fully aware that you cannot do anything of yourself alone, and desire partnership with the whole universe, you will find that you can SG7, in the deep depths of your communion. I am the universe. I am all that is, for the light of my Father is all that is, and I am that light. My Father R170, that is cosmic. Meditation Thoth, that is the thinking of the new race of cosmic man now in its borning degrees. In those deep depths you can desire what you will, and behold, it standeth before you. 0 All nature manifests love. The entirety of creation is the manifestation of love degrees. Every effect of motion in nature is a manifestation of the nature of God. For nature gives of its all in every action, and gives equally in every reaction degrees. If that were not so, the movements of the planets would not be predictable degrees. The electric heartbeat of nature expresses love in both halves of each cycle of the universal heartbeat degrees. Nature never takes, for God never takes. Nature never gives unequally, for God never gives unequally. God's equally balanced giving, for giving is never violated in nature. It could not be violated, for nature is an extension of God's nature degrees. For this reason the balance of nature can never be upset. When you commune with God, do not have desire written upon Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 34, your heart for that which is to be given to you, rather, to be inspired as to what you can give, and how, in order to be worthy of that which will surely be given you if you first give. Unless you first give, you will not be given. Let your thinking be energized to express love by first giving love, in order that its inviolate reaction will give love. To give possessions is not giving love. Love can be given only from royally self to another self. And gold given without self is like unto sounds of music given without also giving soul. Even though the candle is still the same light unchanged, even though it has given of itself to all the universe for its giving, so are you the light of love which you can give to all the world unchanged, and still have that which you have given with all else added unto it. To extend love is to multiply the light of it 1,000-fold. To take love is to lose the light and take on the dark. To the extent which you are illumined with the light of love, which comes only from communion with the source of love, you will be enabled to manifest your genius and masterly creations of your own. The vert purpose_se: of meditation is to enable you to give body, forms to ideas conceived by your mind, unless the light of love which illumines you is extended into your creations. Are but dead things which cannot endure. The one point I wish to accentuate is that what I am now telling you is universal law, inescapable and inevitable law, which cannot be violated or set aside. For me to tell you this is not enough. Talk it over with God. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 35, in your heart, and you will really know that if you break it to the slightest extent, it will break you equally. While if you work with that I ought, M111J, work with _you to the fulfillment of your every desire. How does meditation help to 8? A musician asks how meditation helps a musician to compose a symphony. He claims that teachers are more necessary because of its technique. Teachers can never teach you to be a poet, musician, artist, inventor, or creator of anything. God is the only one who can teach you to create. A Teach 3.2 can tell you how to give a material body to your concept, but only God can give you your inspired concept. In other words, a teacher can give you a technique for expressing your idea, but he cannot become your soul from which your concept extends. If the teacher can re-inspire you with his inspiration, that inspiration of his, reflected in you, awakens the sleeping genius which is within you. But no one can teach you that. If, for example, you have been inspired by listening to Paderewski, you have not been taught anything except the fact that you have been enabled to recognize the light within yourself by his re-illumining. The beauty of music is not in its technique, it is in the soul of its creator. Neither is it in the sound vibrations of music, it is in the silence of the light from which the sound sprang. Universal Law. Nat. Science and Philosophy, page 36. You can know music and think it without having acquired the technique of expressing it, or without producing sounds to give it a body. Your inner ears can hear the music in the silence of God's eternal rhythms, and you can interpret your moods into the rhythms of the universal heat-beat. As Beethoven interpreted the mood of the moonlight into rhythms of it without having any teacher but his God self. Consider the life of any great musical genius. What he finally produces in a written composition first begins in his soul. He must first find aloneness with himself by getting away from all other people, and even from his own body awareness. He must suppress all lurid influences to seek that stillness from within, from which the inner ears of his soul can hear the rhythms of the universal heartbeat of God's creative thinking. To find that stillness in the light of knowing, he must stop thinking, in order that he can conceive idea from the light of all-knowing. From the ecstasy of that stillness the inspiration is born in his very sod. The motive for his symphony gradually takes form through the heartbeat of his thinking, which he extends from the stillness of high soul, then ceases to extend it to again find the stillness of the light which is gradually giving him his motive by its inspiring illumining within him. This is the mode of all creative geniuses during the inspiring and ecstatic hours during which they commune with God. By such communion you unfold your own genius. There is no other way to become a cosmic being, for there is no other way to acquire inspired knowledge which uplifts you from earth unto the high universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 37. Heavens of the kingdom of the soul where cosmic man dwells. Up to this inspired stage of concept no teacher can become a part of it. Not until the creator of a cosmic idea wishes to give it a material body can the teacher be of any help. By giving it a material body I mean to extend the conception from the consciousness of mind, through thinking, to the sounds of a musical instrument, to the symbols of a written manuscript. That is purely a question of technique. The teacher is helpful in the acquirement of a technique, and all the mechanics which go with it, which anybody of average intelligence can also learn from a teacher. In giving your conception a material body many years of technical and scientific practice is needed. The science of the octave spectrum of color or tone is needed for expressing each of the arts, for from those octave wave rhythms the poet, painter, architect, sculptor or musician gives rhythmic inspired conceptions. The architect must first go to the source bodies to his of all inspiration for his conception. He does not need to be an engineer or mathematician for that, but when he builds the cathedral of his inspired imaginings he must know the technique of the engineer and mathematician in order to give a material body to his imagined one. Likewise the painter, sculptor, poet or musician needs to be informed, either by books, teachers, experimentation of experience regarding the techniques of giving bodies to his spiritually conceived ideas. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 38. Remember, however, that technical information is not knowledge. You can be informed through the senses, but you can acquire knowledge only through desire of the soul for illumining with the light of all knowing. Knowledge is of the soul, and the soul is not concerned with techniques. To the soul they have no existence, for your consciousness can conceive a greater symphony, poem, monument, painting or temple than you could ever give a material body to. No matter how perfect y_o_u_and s_. TP_9 joules.1111 y12 is, the soul's greatest masterpieces are never produced on earth. They never descend from their high heavens of the mind universe. No musical master can produce and sound the music which he hears in his soul while in communion with God. Physical sounds can be heard by anyone, but the silences from which they spring can be heard only by a cosmic God-conscious being while his soul is in communion with the universal soul. Speaking again of techniques, an electric machine can remember information recorded upon it electrically, and it can repeat it countless times with accuracy. The electric machine is sensed for that purpose. It is a body without a soul which obeys the will of an intelligence which presses a button. Many humans are but electric machines which remember and repeat information recorded upon their senses. People say of such persons that their technique is perfect but soulless. That means that God awareness in them has not yet been awakened. That is what I mean by saying that teachers can give you techniques, but only God can awaken the light of cosmic inspiration in you. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 39. Many unawakened humans forever repeat the ideas of others like those who stand in assembly lines, each one electrically sensed to do his unthinking, unknowing part like an electrically driven automaton. But many there are also who stand in assembly lines all day and perform work automatically with their bodies while their souls are in communion with God in His high heavens. These are the cosmic ones among men who are seeking to find the kingdom of the soul's high heavens. Degrees. These who desire the light shall find the light by meditation with God. Degrees. John Jones of the assembly line can escape from John Jones and be also Rachmaninoff, or Shakespeare, or Phidias at will. Degrees. Through meditation John Jones can roam the universe and be alone with God in the deep woods, hearing the rippling fall of waters, or the breezes in the pines above the crash of factory wheels or gears. No matter how heavy the burden of the treadmill of life may be, nor how bitterly your body may be chained to earth, you may escape from it and be exalted among men by hearing the still small voice with a new whispering inspired words to you in God's language of light. Degrees. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy by Walter Russell, S.C. D. Lesso.N. Number 4. The Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Copyrighted 1950 by Walter Russell. How to meditate and questions answered concerning meditation. Meditation is the key that will open the door to your inner self, wherein lies all the true power for material manifestation. For as sound springs from the silences, so does positive action come from inner knowing. It has been said that one must lose one's life to find it. Applied to meditation, it means that one must forget one's mortal body in order to become aware of one's immortality. That is exactly what happens when we seek the light of self-illumination in our eternal selves. The great glory of existence is reached only by mind awareness. You can only reach supreme heights that way. In that ecstatic existence is the seed and source of all power and all knowledge which is yours, just desiring it. It is not easy to acquire the meditative state all at once, even as carefully as these lessons tell you how to acquire it. It must come slowly and always through desire to talk with God. There is no other way. You must either desire to live in follow universal law, natural science and philosophy, page 41, the sensed body of earth, or in the light of the mind kingdom of heaven. That is the answer to those who say they try to meditate but find that they cannot stop thinking to get into that state of mind. To those who are thus troubled in making the transition, I would say that if you desired to talk to the President of the United States, your mind would be centered on the reason why you desired to talk to him. Degrees exactly the same procedure takes place when you wish to talk with God. Your mind is centered on your desire. You could not possibly think of other things, nor could your thinking wander aimlessly. Concentrate hard upon your desire if you wish to, or just breathe your desire softly, or just write it upon your heart wordlessly. Perhaps your desire has no definite objective other than to find the peace of heavenly companionship by dwelling in the love nature of yourself and God. It makes no difference what your desire is or whether your approach is in deep concentration upon some specific thing, or in dreamy decentration upon some nebulous forming idea, or upon nothing at all. You cannot concentrate long. In any case, not more than 5 to 10 minutes before the reaction of decentration replaces it. Gradually the inspiration you ask for will come to you. Degrees before you can realize it, you will find yourself stepping in and out of the body, and that alternation which always takes place while losing one's sensed awareness completely in full forgetfulness of body and full awareness of the light of knowing which mind is, universal law, natural science and philosophy, page 42. Slowly, very slowly, read the answer to the first question on how to meditate, then follow through one step at a time, letting the ikp of your material self melt into the great being of your eternal self. Gradually you will find it becomes increasingly easy to merge into the oneness of the Uni-Seven Earths. The secrets of the Uni-Seven Earths will then be gradually revealed to you, and you must then usher in your knowing into material action. Oh, remember, you have all knowledge and power within you, so up your inner reservoir and express your inherent genius. Xian, how can I decentrate into that stillness of the meditative mood? The more I try to stop thinking, the more things I keep thinking of. Answer 17. First, O desire to be in the light equals 0. Say to yourself wordlessly, I want to be alone with God. If you do want to be alone with God, there is a reason for it. That reason is that you need God. You have a desire you want fulfilled, a problem to solve, illness, misfortune, financial loss, or need idea for invention, conception for work of art. No matter what it is you need, whether knowledge, power or inspiration, no or what it is, desire it in your heart wordlessly. Do not talk to God in words. Degrees talk to Him in essence. Know Him. Do not think of Him and thus make Him objective and apart from you. Be Him. Let your soul touch His soul. Second, your desire is written upon you, heart. It is registered in your soul. It is no longer your body desire. It is your soul's desire. You are in communion with Seven Odd about it. Universal law, natural science and philosophy, page 43. Not in words but in light. You have an increasing sense of joyousness. Your desire is written into the universal heartbeat rhythmically. You are responding to it rhythmically. You are no longer just body, you are soul, slightly aware of body, slightly aware of earth, and the heavens above, and of creating things. You are not thinking of extraneous things. You cannot think of objective things of earth while in the spirit. Third, you are in a contemplative mood. There is an indescribable peace in its rest. Your soul sees the beauty of the flower you are passing. It is not your eyes which see that beauty, nor your ears which hear the silences from which the sounds of earth spring. Degrees you are in the rhythmic world of imagining, the world of inspiration, the world of the high heavens, the formless, indescribable world of the high heavens. Fourth degrees you are in communion with God, you are one with all things are or degrees you know all things as one. You know the light which all things are, you know the love nature of God, and of all things degrees you know God as love, you know yourself as love, you know the ecstasy of love. You know yourself, the mortal you has become the eternal you. Fifth. That which you desired to know you do know, that which you desired to have you now have. You have always known and always have had that which you have but now desired. Degrees you have always known it in spirit, for you are the light of all knowing which spirit is. God does not give you knowledge or power, He gives you an awareness that you already have all knowledge and all power. That universal law, natural science and philosophy, page 1 ton He has, for He makes you aware of your oneness with Him. When you actually know that, you can then say, my Father and I are one. Neither does God give you material things without your equal giving, for that is the inviolate law regarding all material things. He gives you the seed, but you must nurture the seed. Gives you His body to fashion into the form of your desire, but why you must give equally of your body to fashion it. God gives you the tools you need, but you must use them. God manifests the spirit of His nature in His own body by creating His body in the image of Himself. You must manifest the spirit of your nature in your own body by creating your body in the image of yourself. Sixth. In meditation you have stepped out of the material into the spiritual you. You have stepped out of the body of you self into the mind of yourself, out of the manifestation of reality into reality. You have stepped out of the conditioned universe of divided and unbalanced things into the unconditioned and undivided universe of balance which controls unbalanced things. You have done this because you had desire in you, which must be 1'11 filled. Degrees 4 desire has been fulfilled. O God has illumined you with the knowledge you desired. You have become inspired. Conceptica of idea and spiritual form is now anew, but can you now come back into the physical world and transform your conceived image into a material one? You now know cause. Can you translate it into effect? God has given you what you have desired, but now comes the important question: A to WHT you are going to do about it. How shall you use it? Have you the moral courage to universal law, natural science and philosophy, page 45, use it, or are you still a weakling, preferring to suffer the effects of your ills rather than remove their cause? Shall you work with God and arise, or against God and fall? Your body manifests your mind, it will do what you command it to do. Is it ill? If so, it is out of balance. Balance is in the eternal you. Now extend balance to the mortal you. Degrees whatever your problem was, it has been solved in the spirit of you. Can you now manifest it? Can you now give it a body? Can you now extend your spiritual balance to your unbalanced physical body to stop the wreckage of your business or heal your body? C. Regain a lost friendship. Conclusion. All of our problems of life lie in the fact that we are forever manifesting cause by extending cause into effect. What we know spiritually we are endeavoring to manifest physically. We succeed or fail, partially or fully. Our failure is certain if we work alone without God, for we can do nothing of ourselves alone. The measure of our ability to transform the reality of cause into its simulated manifestation is the measure of our God awareness coupled with desire to work knowingly vis-a-vis God from moment to moment, to commune with God for inspiration alone, then forget God until later on when mediocrity is tapped upon your work, is to fall short of manifesting your soul's desire, but to create a masterpiece which truly manifests your soul's desire means that you must work knowingly with God every moment while interpreting the rhythms of your inspired vision into rhythmic forms. God's creative processes are our creative processes. His universal law, natural science and philosophy. Page 46. Creations are extensions of his knowing transformed into the desired form through his action. Our creations are also extensions of our knowing transformed by action. If we think that God has not granted our desire, it is because we have failed to manifest the awareness which he has given us. If our problems are still unbalanced, it is because we have failed to extend our balance to them. We have that balance to extend but do not extend it. We continue the cause of our ills and then blame Goddess. Continuing their effects degrees. In this manner we learn our lessons of failure or success, good or ill. Life is just a lesson, just a continuous process of learning how 70 transform cause into effect in such a manner that we accomplish what we desire to accomplish, or we do not. There is one reason for failure to fulfill your greatest desire, just as there is but one reason for fulfilling it abundantly. I cannot fully explain and define this one reason so early in the unguilding of this new knowledge, for you are not yet ready for it, and will not be until I am enabled to change some basic misconceptions commonly held by all mankind of this present age. Gradually, as the real picture of God and nature unfolds, this one reason will be given to you as the most basic and fundamental law and principle of creation degrees. Also it is inviolate whether heated C, unheated degrees. All I can say now is to repeat again the fact that this universe is based upon love and the law of love, which is the principle of rhythm balanced interchange, or equal giving for regavia, and as the basis of what I shall try to gradually unfold. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy. Page 47. To say that it can now be comprehended is to assume that you know what love means and you do not. Its meaning has not yet penetrated human consciousness sufficiently to become a part of human practice. Words alone will not convey knowledge of God's one law to you. You must know it in your heart until it becomes your nature. When it becomes your nature, you will then practice it without compromise, or without the possibility of violating it. When you and many other men have acquired this understanding as a part of your nature, the day of cosmic man will have dawned. You say that God does not give us material things without our equal regiving. That is contrary to all of my whole life's teachings, which say that all God's gifts are free, that God gives us everything, supplies all our needs freely and without price, as freely as the air we breathe. Answer: that idea is one of the commonly accepted misconceptions I have just referred to. It is entirely erroneous because it is not either the nature of God nor does it conform with his law, as exemplified in the universal heartbeat and in the electric wave. Let us begin to reform our old conceptions, one step at a time. Degrees. God works with you, not for you as man believes. God gives, but you must give and equally. God gives you the free will right to your action but withholds the right to the reaction. Woe betide you if your action is out of balance with its reaction, for God will not allow unbalance in all his universe. You have spoken of the air we breathe. God gives it to us. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy. Page 48. From his body, but we must breathe it in. Then we must give it equally to his body for re-semicoloniving. Likewise God gives us our very bodies from his body, and we re-give them back to his body equally for re-giving. He gives us our daily bread for our bodies, but we must nurture and attend our bodies continually. Else his gift of bread would be of no avail. God gives us the seed, but we must nurture the seed. Those who believe that God's gifts are thinking and selfish prayer, and free spend much time in wishful the making of many useless affirmations in the hope and belief that God will work magic at their request and drop money, or the applause of men, or the full-grown fruit of their desire right in their laps, freely, and with no effort on their part. Let God do it, they say, and, ask and ye shall receive, and, with faith and belief you can move mountains. Men have removed mountains by working with the knowledge and power given by God, but through idleness and wishful thinking, tides come to sail under the season to harness Niagara, but not by wishful thinking, nor see faith and belief, nor by sitting idly and letting God do it. The only way men have done these things is to re-give of themselves for that which God has given of his fire. If you ask God to help you become a concert pianist, he will unfailingly help you and work with you, but he will not work for you while you sit and affirm that you are going to be a concert pianist. That is what I mean when I say that you must work knowingly. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 49. With God, knowing that God is working with you, giving you exactly what you are to give back equally from moment to moment, and not more, but setting no limitations on what he will give. For God lets you set loose limitations which may be bounded or unbounded, as great or as small as your desire is great or small. God works with engineers and architects to build great bridges and cathedrals, with poets to create great epics, with painters and sculptors to create great masterpieces, with inventors to ease man's burdens. But God does not work for them degrees. He gives all they ask and can receive. They must give equally. Let us to specific. Let us say you want to have an apple orchard in your meadow. Your desire is for wonderful apples, the best ever grow. Your meadow is God's body. If you put seeds in it where you desire the trees to be, God's body will extend apple trees and apples in due time, and of a quality measured by the equality and inequality of your re-giving of your body in service of watering, LNG and other expressions of love given by you to match the love given by God. The wonderful apples of your desire will come only if love given 12 years you equals love given to you. A story F.S. told about a farmer who desired a wonderful farm and asked God for it. Soon he found a rocky and worn-out farm and purchased whereupon a critical neighbor said, "You prayed for a wonderful farm. If this is what God gave you, what good is prayer?" God answering, "My prayer, you wait and see. This is all I could GL7 now to match his giving, but he will give more when I give moles." So the farmer worked knowingly and lovingly with God, and Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 50. God worked with him with equal love. Year after year God extended love from his body and the farmer from his, until the wonderful farm of his desire stood before him in all of its majesty as a co-creation of God and men. 5 years of this, and his minister looked out over the lovely well-cultivated fields and said, "How wonderfully God has blessed you with this beautiful farm! How lovely and rich these fields are!" "Yes," said the farmer, "but you should have seen it when God worked it alone." There is not the slightest irrelevance in this story, for it is law, and it is the way God works. The critical neighbor was wrong in expecting God to give to the farmer more than he could give, And the farmer was right in stating that God was answering his prayer. The law of equal giving for re-giving is absolute. You must give equally for what is given you. An effort on your part must pay for the effort on God's part. If you stop giving, you will shut off your own supply. If the heavens cease giving rains to earth, the earth ceases giving crops and forests to the heavens. God's law will never give you anything without an equivalent repayment in action. You must nurture the health which is given you and give much care to your body. As long as you use that gift. You could starve with food 10 feet away from you unless you gave effort to reaching for it and more effort in making use of it. Love means exchange of service for service, and God's law demands that service given must equal service rendered. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 51. Question. What I cannot understand is your constant insistence upon the word E3L in relation to giving and re-giving. I have always been brought up on the belief that God gives abundantly, very much in excess of what effort we re-give. If we put a bushel of potatoes in the ground, God multiplies them 100-fold for us, and for every measure of wheat we give to Him, He gives us 100 to our one. Please explain that. And the key to that answer is that God's universe is founded upon balance, one balanced condition which He divides into two equal and opposite conditions of His electric thinking. This electric universe of matter is composed entirely of these two equal and opposite conditions. Every effort of every creating thing is expressed by the motion of interchange between those pairs of opposite conditions, such as matter and space, which constantly interchange equally by breathing into and out of each other equally. Without that equality of rhythmically repeated interchange, the universe could not continue. That rhythmic interchange constitutes the heartbeat of God's body. Its rhythm and balance are absolute because the division in God's electric thinking is equally balanced. Now as to the question. It is not a bushel of potatoes, or a measure of wheat which you give to God's body for re-giving from God's body. It is a measure of seed which multiplies its patterned form in God's body by transforming one form into another form. There has been no multiplication of God's body, nor has its balance been upset. An equal substance of earth has been transformed into an equal substance of potatoes or wheat. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 52. There is no more and no less in God's body by transforming one substance into another. Neither has that multiplication of potatoes or wheat been given to you until you re-give an effort or service. If you do not re-give to obtain them, they are still God's body and will retransform their forms and substances into the formless earth from which they sprang. You cannot have what you do not pay for. Love given must be paid for with equal love re-given. Service accepted must equal service rendered. The potatoes or wheat in the ground are still God's body. He has not given them to you for your body, or your use, until you re-give equally to earn the gift. Question. I see that clearly now, but how would you explain its application to a man in business who gives more than he is paid for, or more than is expected of him, or of a genius who gives all he has with less pay than a workman, or of a great inventor like Goodyear who starved all his life but gave untold value to the world many millions of times in excess of what he received? Answer. The man you refer to could not give more than he has received. He could not give more of himself than he is, for all his life he has been given that which has made him what he is. If he gives more than is expected of him, God's law will balance it in promotion or increased salary. If that is not his motive, and if an increase is not given him, He has enriched himself experience and better judgment in the management of his life. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 53. The genius who gives his all of great value for less pay than a materialist has 10,000 times more reward of the kind of pay he wants than the materialist. He has the ecstasy of living in the high heavens, the joy or self-expression of hearing heavenly rhythms which do not exist for the materialist, and his immortality lives forever in the memory of man while the materialist is forgotten. Goodyear's body starved, but his soul was enriched for eons to come by having demonstrated his immortality. His reward was a satisfaction that all the money in the world could not equal. He won the gratitude of the world. You are still giving love to him for the love he gave to you, and so is the whole world. There are other values than money values, and money values have no meaning whatsoever unless they are the manifestation of lova. This gives me an opportunity to say something that I have been leading up to say to you. I am trying to unfold the cosmic mentality of the coming race of man by helping mankind to realize that the nature of God, and of man, and of all creating things, and of all the laws and principles relating to creating things, and all the laws and principles relating to man's dealings with other men, are founded on God is love, and creation is love. Manilitstat. The universe is founded on love. There is not in the universe anywhere, or in anything, in any experience or man, or animal, or the elements, or the starry systems that does not express love. Universal Law, Natural equals _al Science and Philosophy Yaw 454 It may be difficult to change such misconceptions as sin, evil and wickedness in general, but sin or evil do not exist, and I shall fail in my task if I cannot demonstrate to you all with conviction that this is God's universe which expresses God's nature, and that it is all good. We have lived in an evil universe long enough. Wars, fears and hatreds have been the fruit of it. God sent a message of love into the world 2,000 years ago to prepare man's mind for the though of love which was then unborn and high. God sent another message of love to man of new comprehension for the express purpose of gradually ending man's barbarian days of fear and and transform him to the ways of 13V. That is the reason for these steps in trying to unravel the great complexities of the unknowing life of material sensing to the knowing life of cosmic expression of the God nature in all the ways of man. Question. Do we meditate with our mind or our brain? Answer. We meditate with our mind. There is only one mind, which is God's mind. God's mind is the one knower, the one thinker. The reason you think that you have a separate mind of your own is that the thoughts you think are the ones stored in your brain as memories of experience of your own body, or of your own thoughts. God's mind motivates those thoughts which you think of as your own. You cannot think except for the motivating power of desire in you. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 55. Mind thinks ideas of its knowing into FC2M12 / dividing one idea which can be known into many parts. He say parts are electrically projected into a three-dimensional universe through the pulsations of thinking. The brain records the thought forms, symbols, and other electric actions, but records of thoughts are not thoughts. Thinking is electric, but electricity is not knowledge, it is but the motivating power for expressing 110 knowledge. Question. What relation is my mind to RT brain? Answer. Your brain is electric matter, gust electric waves which all matter is. Matter does not think nor does it know. You do not think with your brain, You ink through it, projecting an electric current through it exactly as you project an electric current through your phonosraph to motivate phonograph records. Cryo-2 phonograph may have a dozen recorded ideas, but it does not know what is recorded upon them. Brain has thousands upon thousands of ideas recorded up it, but your brain does not know what is upon them. The Loginka which selects E desired record for your phonograph also selects the desired record from your brain. The electric current of your desire motivates those records into action. Your brain is a part of the electrical machine which is your body. Its function is to record memories, experiences and information. It is also the central nerve ganglion of the body which acts automatically to fulfill the demands of the body, or when willed to act by the intelligence which centers it. Universal law, Natura eo 3 oinsei 1L philosophy page 56. The brain does not know what it is doing any more than the automobile knows what it is doing, or where it is going when activated by the intelligence which centers it. Knowledge of mind, and not of matter. Matter records knowledge, but a record of knowledge is not knowledge any more than a printed book is the idea recorded in the book. One student reminded me that science has proven that the brain thinks because an instrument has been invented that records electric wave pulsations in the brain. That instrument does not prove any such thing. It merely proves that an electric current is passing through T_brain, when mind thinks, just as the same instrument can prove that an electric current is passing through your recording phonograph, or washing machine, or wire recorder, or your refrigerator, but that does not prove that those machines think. It merely proves that all electric matter obeys the intelligence which motivates all matter. Electricity is the servant of mind, but is not mind. Witness, for example, the telegram which passes through an electrically motivated wire as an electric current. You know that the idea in the telegram is a mind extension arising from an intelligence which thought the idea into form. You know that the wire is not thinking that thought. You know also that the wire is but recording form symbols automatically, and that it has no knowledge of what it is doing. You know also that the telegram itself does not know the idea which it manifests, just as books do not know the ideas and diagrams which are printed in them. Universal law, Vatlial science ANL philosophy 57. In this whole universe we have only mind and matter to deal with. Mind alone can know things and think things. Matter is electric and can only sense things. Sensing is not knowing. The brain is composed of electric vibrations. Vibrations belong to the physical universe of motion. All matter is motion only, electric wave vibrations of motion, and the sole purpose of matter is to build bodies and forms and patterns conceived 12/mind and imagined into form lay the electric thinking of mind. Electricity is the tool used to fashion mind conceptualities of the creator into form, but the tool used any creator, not the creator. 1I7 question, what is the relation of la mind to las brain? And say your invisible mind has its center of consciousness within the visible brain, and that conscious center coordinates with the seat of sensation which the brain obeys via E7 or your consciousness demands action by it. There are machines made which will do 1,000 complex things when buttons are pressed by the will of mind to compel those machines to obey 1V_11. The machine adds or subtracts, prints columns and computes totals more accurately than the human machine can do them, but the human brain has no more awareness of what it is doing than a nut machine. Ideas and concepts formed by your intelligence are colonized through the brain but not the brain. Your meditation are spiritual. You interpret them into matter electrically. TB physical universe of matter is but the electric record of TNDGHTS universal law, natural science and philosophy page 58 of mind but it is not thought. Much confusion arises from the assumption that we are lag when we are but sensing. The brain is constantly receiving electric messages from all over the body. Such messages are not mental, they are purely electrical, they produce sensation. The brain senses and records every message and sends counteracting messages to other parts of the body. A message from the arm says, I am in pain. Pain is a sensation, not a thought. Sensing comes from the body while thought comes from the mind. We believe that we are thinking when we are but electrically sensing. All day long the beer is telling the body, through brain, that it is hungry, that it needs a drink of water, or wants to dance, or that it is cold, and 100 other things. The senses of the body are thus continually intercommunicating with the senses, but these electrical sensations are not thou 7 BTS until those sensations make us mentally aware of them, think, and we decide to something about them. We give our body a drink of water, or gratify its desire to dance, or put a coat on it to warm it. See, our mental decision is a thought but the electric message of the body to the body is but a sensation. It is the body speaking to the body. Such a sensation must even not even come from your own body to your own body. Another body can record his thought into an electrical sensation by ordering his senses to record the thought in words which are again record 4D as a telegram to you. A series of sensations which have no meaning in themselves. Universal LZW, Natural Science and Philosophy page 59 are translated into meaning by your intelligence and you then mentally decide to do something about it. The sensations in matter which have taken place between the mental operation of the sender and the receiver are purely electrical, they have no relation to mind, nor to thought of mind. Again we repeat this fact in other words of the same meaning, all matter is but sensed electrical vibrations of motion. Matter has no intelligence, nor knowledge, nor now to think or meditate. That applies to your brain, for your brain is not 7HT but matter, centered HZA guiding intelligence. The same thing can be said of your automobile. All material bodies have what might be termed an electrical awareness of each other, and of their relation to each other. The brain I3 the seat of such an electrical awareness in man. Electrical awareness is necessary to an electrically mechanized universe, but electrical sensations, or vibrations, between mechanized parts of matter are not mental. For an electric outlet-controlled machine in your factory has exactly the same electric awareness that you have. Its wired nervous system conveys electric messages to all of its parts for the dual purpose of motivating them as well as for adjusting all parts to each other. Brain's handicap meditation at Miss 12B said that, instead of our brains aiding in meditation, we meditate in spite of our brains. For perfect meditation ye need to lose our body tc forget it as though we had no body. Universal Law, Natural Science ANL Philosophy page 61 cannot lose, or forget his body if his senses will not let him do so. Imagine a musical genius trying to compose a symphony in competition with sensations. He could not do it except by long practice of being able to shut out any sensations whatsoever, such as of noise, discomfort or inharmonious environment. A master can do this but not a novice. Question. Does that explain why geniuses are so far greater than other men? Answer: yes, it does. The genie:(s) is ahead of other men because of his awareness of his divine power, which he has multiplied and remultiplied 1,000-fold by his lifelong habit of seeking aloneness with himself for the purpose of unfolding that divine power for his own creative expression. Your own genius is as great as any man's on earth. The only reason that you do not equals out is because you have never given yourself a chance to know of your divine inheritance by forgetting your body long enough to become aware of your soul. You allow emotions and tensions of both sides sensing to dominate you instead of your sleeping soul. Go into the deep forest and awaken your soul. That is what meditation for. And the moment you begin to practice it, that moment you begin to express the unlimited power of the awakening genius within you. If you acquire the habit of meditation, you multiply your knowledge and the power to express your knowledge. You also give your body an escape from its tensions via _heals it of all ills by restoring its balance. Universal law, natural science, and philosophy. Page 6. Leaders through meditation. Edison acquired the knowledge and power to unfold an idea not yet known on earth. Through meditation he got the concept for that idea in a flash of inspiration and created a body for it through concentratively thinking the idea of that concept into a physical form. Through meditation the great writers, painters, sculptors, poets and musicians are enabled to work knowingly with God as one with Him. Having acquired their concept from God's all-knowing mind, they create their concept into material form by knowingly working with God's hands to create eternally living masterpieces which will endure because their very nature is God's nature manifested in them. Question 0. How can your mind relax when you say that mind is unchanging? Also, do I have to concentrate to meditate? Angwer agrees it is not your mind which relaxes, it is your electric thinking. When your thinking is concentrated, it is under the same stresses and strains which a clock spring is when wound up tight. It is an effort to wind a clock spring up tight, for it resists being wood, and it is straining to become unwound. I will draw you a dict which will illustrate that. It will also illustrate your thinking when concentrated. When you release all tensions, the clock spring relaxes, expands to a position of rest. It is utterly released from effort to resist strains. IWF.11 diagram that also it will illustrate your thinking when decentrated. Universal law, natural science and philosophy. Page 62. Fig. 3. Figure 3 and 4 represents water concentrated into a drop and concentrated into vapor. Figure 5 represents concentration of light rays to a point. Light rays thus concentrated through a lens will burn a hole through paper or fabrics. Light rays proceeding in the opposite direction will expand and cool by decentrating towards space. Figure 5. The whole physical universe of forming growing bodies is due to the fast motion of concentrative thinking. Conversely, all degenerating and decaying bodies are due to the expansion of decentrative thinking. Conclusion. I hope you can all clearly see that the only desire you should ever have is the desire to acquire God awareness in you for the purpose of extending God's nature from you as your universal law, natural science and philosophy. Page 63. Nature, His power as your power, and His knowing as your knowing. Meditation is for the purpose of acquiring this awareness. And if you acquired it just for the bliss of it, for the ecstasy and peace of it for yourself alone, it is not enough, for the God nature is purposeful and you must be purposeful by extending your nature to all other men for their cultural uplift. World culture comes alone from those who have God awareness in them. Without God awareness in man he is of the jungle degrees. The measure of his growing God awareness is the measure of his growing culture degrees. What applies to man as a whole applies to you. Your master Linus is of your own making as well as its mediocrity. One of my favorite sayings is this: genius is self-bestowed and mediocrity is self-inflicted. The world of imaginings meditation transports one from the transient world of matter to the real world of dreamings, visions, and imaginings where ideas and concepts are born. That is the world where sounds are heard in the silence of your soul, where no sound is, where rhythms of symphony and poem are the rhythms of cosmic pulsings of God's thinking manifested in the heartbeats of his universe. God's ecstatic kingdom of the light is the uncreated universe of souls of things which have not yet appeared in form but which eternally are degrees. Go thou there. You may journey to that ecstatic world in God's high heavens for just your souls asking to be transported to that kingdom of the souls of things. Desire that stillness within your soul and behold, you are universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 64. TJ, the soul of all the universe of countless uncreated ones which spring from one in _ you. I behold yourself, your uncreated self, eternal you, not yet manifested, or, if manifested, have forgotten it as though it never were. Degrees. Desire thou that kingdom and behold it standeth before thee. And if there are those among men who ask, wherein shall I seek that kingdom of the souls of uncreated things? I say, go thou and seek beauty. 0. And where shall I find beauty? You will find beauty where love is, for beauty lies in the giving of love, and its regi vingo. But where shall I find love in this sordid world of fear, where no peace is, of hatred where no love can be, of ugliness which stifleth beauty, and evil which driveth love away? Seek it within yourself. When you find self you will find love, for naught but love is within self. Where love is, neither fear nor hate can bow, for evil exists not. There is naught but experience in extended bodies, and all experiences are good for, I say, all experiences extend from love, and love awaits their completion in love. Degrees. Remember our Father Mother's saying in the message of the Divine Iliad, I am a patient God, all men will come to me in due time, but theirs is the agony of the waiting. These are God's words to cosmic man. You have undoubtedly read these lessons straight through Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 65. All at once from beginning to end. Now begin from the beginning again, slowly, carefully, a sentence at a time, a paragraph at a time, and a page and chapter at a time, until their deeper meaning becomes a part of your inner consciousness. This is new knowledge and new thinking. You cannot transform your past ages of traditional thinking into new knowing without giving such deep and earnest thought to it that it becomes a part of your very self. New thinking cannot be grasped at once. Do not be discouraged if you do not attain expected heights immediately. You would not expect to play the classics at once if you studied music, for that would be new thinking for you, and you would have to begin with scales and finger exercises. When you begin to think cosmically you will advance rapidly if your desire is keen, but from the very day you begin you will note increasingly greater power in your work and a still greater transformation of your personality. This message to you is from my soul to your soul and not to the senses of your body. By giving deep thought to it you will find that which you seek. I can open the door for you through which I have entered and found the light, but only you, can make it a part of you by giving yourself the time to absorb it completely. Realizing this fact, I have not asked you to send in examination papers, reports or essays, such as you would be required to do if you were obtaining information which could be remembered and repeated at will, to apply the customary rules of universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy page 66-row. Examination by questionnaires would not be fair to you, for one can be examined only for what information he has. A man cannot be examined as to what knowledge he has, for the depths of knowledge cannot be sounded. Knowledge is life, from which all ideas of things are born, about which you can become informed. But information concerning effect is not knowledge of their cause. Whatever emanates from you as a result of this new knowing will be creative expression, not mere repetition. Knowledge is the one basis for creation. To become knowingly a creator is to achieve the highest pinnacle of human expression. However, if you need further clarification of anything which may not have been made sufficiently clear to you, write your question clearly and as briefly as possible and send it here. All such questions, if not duplicated by others, will be printed in the question and answer sections of following lessons. A personal word to all readers. Dear Cosmic Friends, your desire for God's message for the new cosmic age was expressed when you enrolled for the Intimate Home Study course, and if I can but impart this new knowledge to you during the coming months, I will have worthily fulfilled my mission on earth, which is to bring the cosmic Aga of man into being. In these first 4 lessons I know you will realize the trend of my desire in respect to each one of you individually, and as a whole. This letter is to make my purpose a little more clear. Let us, therefore, look back on man's cycle of unfolding to aid in clarifying my intent. The human race is about to undergo a third great transition which will uplift it to heights as yet undreamed of. The purpose of these lessons is to prepare you for your own uplift, and to become a leader for world uplift. The Pagan Age of Mo. The first transition occurred at the dawn of consciousness, when man first began to think and know. Out of his search for a greater being, the pagan age of idol worship of many gods arose, but man was still brute man, fearing all things, still loving to shed blood for self-purposes and to appease his many gods whom he also feared. The barbaric age of man. The second transition occurred when mystic messengers told of the one God of love, but man could then conceive only a God of wrath and vengeance whom they feared, and whom they appeased with bloodshed on their very altars in exchange for mercy and absolution. This present age of barbaric man has but one God, but many religions. Out of fear of ex-God, man created hate and evil. He divided into tribes, then nations, which killed for plunder and for power over other men. The barbarian age is still killing and is still afraid of God and man, but it has already begun to dissolve because man is beginning to comprehend the unity of God and man, the meaning of love and the interdependence of man, and his ability to vision the possibility of one God, one religion and one unified world. The cosmic age of man, the third great transition now dawning, is the new age of cosmic man, of spiritual mind knowing who has transcended his body sensing. Cosmic man is illumined with the light of love and its application to life and law. Cosmic man 0.mer knows God in him as one, he communes and works with him as one, and knowingly interprets God's nature as co-creator of God's universe. It was for the express purpose of bringing the necessary new knowledge into the world, to effect this transition into a world of one God, one religion and one world, that God illumined me during a whole lifetime to demonstrate the multiplied power of cosmic man, to multiply his versatility and masterfulness in creative expression, and for giving that knowledge of the light for the illumining of other men, to present most effectually this all-important, and least known subject, the illumination. I have decided to define, describe and explain cosmic consciousness and the illumination by my own experiences, beginning at the age of 7 with partial illumination every year in May, with deeper illumination every 7th year, and with full illumination in 1921 covering a period of 39 days and nights. I had thought that I would never reveal this most sacred experience as a personal one, but lo and I now say one that I owe it to the sum of human knowledge. For so many centuries it has been known as an extremely rare human event, but which no one who has experienced it has been able to explain because of the inability of past ages to comprehend it. There are an ever-increasing number of cosmic humans who are now ready and able to comprehend cosmic consciousness. Lao and I not W of many, some have come here, others have ridden from 11 over the country, and many are now taking this study course. Everyone who is deeply inspired by the message of the Divine Iliad is ready for it, otherwise my books would have no meaning for them. For the above reasons I believe that it is incumbent upon me that I should now unfold this greatest of all mysteries of the universe. Any hesitation which I have had in making this decision has been dispelled by my beloved Lao, whose life, with mine, is likewise dedicated to the infiltration of the love principle of nature into our human relations to replace the fear, hate, sin and evil which have dominated human relations of the past and have caused man to kill man, and war succeeding war which will eventually destroy the human race unless saved from destruction by love. Now, as I told you to do at the end of the 4th lesson, study these 4 lessons carefully and slowly. Remember always that Ian knew knowledge and therefore has a new language. Next month I shall not only explain and define cosmic consciousness but give the scientific explanation of prayer. Many have told me their prayers are not effectual, thus proving that they have not yet learned how to pray in the true meaning of prayer. All prayer is answerable in the light of all clean, and I shall endeavor to unfold more of this inner power for you by giving you every possible explanation on this all-illumining subject next month. With our love and blessings, I am sincerely yours, Walter Russell.